So today we're going to be talking about teaching to the test. So teaching to the test is when teachers only teach material that is on the test, so teaching them how to pass and only specific information for that instead of educating them on other topics as well. Which this does is it starts to narrow the curriculum down quite significantly instead of encompassing all other aspects. So instead of students learning how to think creatively or critically, they just end up learning how to circle the correct answer on a test. And there's quite a few reasons that this is bad, other than the fact that it doesn't help students learn. But teachers feel this pressure to do this because without having a class with good passing grades, the teacher's at risk for losing their job perhaps, because we start pitting teachers against each other and rating them based on these standardized test scores. So amongst the issues of what the students are actually learning, we see some issues that the teachers feel with teaching to the test. So this can be feelings of inadequacy when they're compared to other teachers. So a lot of the test scores are used in order to rank teachers in schools. So if a teacher has a class that has bad marks on, let's say, a standardized test, then they're considered a bad teacher. So this makes teachers start to teach only for the test instead of teaching other material that helps their students actually learn. This is why sometimes we see the phenomena between the learning gap and the actual grade gap between high-end schools and lower-end schools. The grade gap is closing, but people are starting to see that the learning gap is actually increasing between schools. Another issue is that a lot of school boards want successful classes, so they put extra pressure on the teachers to teach the test so that their school could in the end receive funding. And all of these things are barriers to teachers wanting to educate their students properly. They want to feel like they're succeeding, and they want their students to feel like they're succeeding, because who doesn't like getting a test back that has a big fat A on the top of it? Why, all of these are preventing us from giving students the proper education that they deserve. And this is something that we need to stop doing, and we need to teach kids to critically think on the information that they're given, and to think creatively and think out of the box instead of A, C, B, D, and so on. Yeah. Okay, go.
Alrighty, next up we're going to do a quiz today. It's on Kahoot. That's an online app that you can access from your computer or your cellular device if you have one. And the quiz today is going to be on critical thinking and solutions on how to remove teaching to the test. So if you can go to Kahoot.it and type in the pin that's shown on the screen, and we will begin our quiz.
Ooh, is there a solution to removing teaching to the test? Yes. Oh gosh. Define critical thinking. God, it's a good thing I know these answers. Hell yeah. Oh, we gotta provide.
Oh yeah, these are discussion questions.
Okay.
So they're not really part of the quiz.
Okay. We'll add it in. Discuss how we can get around some new barriers. Cool. And then
Okay, now that we have finished our quiz, we're going to have a couple of discussion questions just to wrap it all up. So the first question is, how can we get around some of the other barriers to teaching to the test?
I don't know, I think if we decide to get rid of standardized testing entirely, we wouldn't have to worry about teaching to the test at all.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I feel like it doesn't fully encompass a student's ability to learn. I feel like it just teaches them how to fill out a piece of paper. It doesn't really, they don't really intake all the knowledge they need from that certain.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. I also think we need equitable funding. Like, one of the things that they presented earlier was the fact that they compete for funding from the government. Like, that's not fair. All schools should be receiving fair funding so that they can provide students with these proper things. And I think it was interesting, the idea of experiential education, or like other ways that you could do that. Like, I don't know, maybe student-centered learning or passion projects for students that they are interested in what they're learning. And then I'm sure that would reflect on those tests that they're learning, but they don't have to just learn the test information.
I agree. That's a great point.
Great points, guys.
I don't even know.
So the second question is, what are some simple ways to promote critical thinking?
I think we can promote critical thinking by like having students do stuff instead of sitting in a classroom. Like, if they were outside, I don't know, playing with the thing that they're learning about, they might be able, to actually think about it and then understand it.
Like experiential education.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or even like, abstract questions. Sometimes they seem kind of hard to understand and there's no like relevance in modern society. But if you're asking somebody a question about, I don't know, if God's real, let's say, whatever, that takes a lot of thinking skills to truly understand an idea that has no, nothing. It's like whatever you think. So I think that could be an interesting way to do that.
It's a great thought, Mel.
Yeah, I feel like also maybe having students with critical thinking develop why the answer they come across for the question, develop how and why it's true, and maybe not yes or no, or A or B. It's this is why it's true, and this is how you explaining it and discuss it.
We could also have students like look at the answer that they're given for something and then build why that person said that and what other answers could be for that, because just because something is scientifically true or whatever doesn't necessarily mean that it's the only truth.
Yeah.
So there could be a lot of things that students could do to think critically on stuff.
Awesome. Great answers.
So to wrap up our lesson, we believe that standardized testing is not an appropriate way to value a student's success in learning. Students do not fully benefit from the test, as teachers tend to teach for the test, like we discussed. Students deserve a full learning experience, which they have the rights to. Teachers are also consumed by these standardized test scores because they can lose their jobs based off these results. Teachers need to be able to move away from this banking system of education that teaches students which answers to circle on a test or an exam. The solutions discussed in class are only a small part of the systemic issue. Ideally, we can reform education so it does not include standardized testing. Okay, but these are a few ways we can currently mitigate the impacts of teaching to the test.